What if I told you that it was the work of just one man that took Rome from chaos to one of the most powerful empires in history? Caesar Augustus, the first Roman emperor, was more than just a leader. He transformed the Roman world through shrewd politics, battles in which millions of people were killed, and unprecedented reforms that politicians today look up to. In this video, you'll hear Augustus himself recount his rise from a young and inexperienced heir to the most powerful ruler Rome ever knew. Before we begin, I'd request you to please subscribe to the channel so we can continue to make videos like these for you. And without any further ado, let's explore what went on inside the mind of Caesar Augustus. I was born Gaius Octavius Thurinus on September 23rd in 63 BCE in the small town of Vellutre, located in the Italian region of Latium. My family was not of the highest Roman aristocracy, but we were connected. My father, Gaius Octavius, was a successful public official who had served as governor of Macedonia. He died when I was only 4, leaving my mother, Actium, to raise me. My mother was one of the most virtuous women in Rome, and she instilled in me values of discipline, resilience, and ambition. Yet, it was my relationship with my great-uncle, Julius Caesar, that would shape the course of my life. Caesar took a keen interest in me when I was a child. He had no legitimate children of his own and saw something in me, something that perhaps even I wasn't aware of at that young age. He would often bring me along on military campaigns and political endeavors. As a young boy, I watched him lead his legions and navigate the complex world of Roman politics. Little did I know that these experiences would soon become invaluable to me. When Caesar was assassinated in 44 BCE, my world turned upside down. I was just 19 years old, living in Apollonia, preparing to join Caesar in his military campaigns in the east. The news of his murder reached me like a thunderbolt. Suddenly, I was thrust into the political turmoil of Rome, a city gripped by power struggles and betrayal. Caesar had named me as his heir, adopting me as his son in his will. I became Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus, the adopted son of the most powerful man in the Roman world, but I was also in grave danger. When I returned to Rome, I had no experience leading armies or navigating the treacherous waters of Roman politics. Yet I quickly realized that power was not given. It had to be taken. My first challenge was Mark Antony, Caesar's most trusted lieutenant and an experienced politician and general. Antony believed that, as Caesar's right-hand man, he was the rightful heir to Caesar's legacy. I saw through his ambition and realized that to secure my own place, I would have to outmaneuver him. The Senate, particularly Cicero, saw in me a useful tool to weaken Antony's influence. I took advantage of this and aligned myself with the Senate, building my political base, while simultaneously raising my own legions from the wealth Caesar had left me. But Antony was no fool. Tensions escalated until war seemed inevitable. In 43 BCE, the conflict with Antony culminated in the Battle of Mutina. I fought alongside the forces of the Senate, defeating Antony's legions and forcing him to retreat. It was a hard-fought battle, and although the victory was mine, I learned an important lesson. Rome's political landscape was not just about defeating enemies on the battlefield, it was about forging alliances. Antony was down but not out, and I knew I would need him in the future. Soon I knew I had to make a move to put an end to all the killing. I knew the type of man Antony was, and I knew he was going to come to get his revenge, even if it took him a decade. So in a move that I knew would surprise everyone, including the Senate, I reached out to Antony and proposed an alliance. Together with Lepidus, we formed the Second Triumvirate in 43 BCE, a political and military alliance that would divide the Roman territories among us. My goals were clear. I needed to secure my position and eliminate our common enemies, the assassins of Julius Caesar. Our first target was the infamous duo of Brutus and Cassius, the principal conspirators behind Caesar's assassination. They had fled to the eastern provinces and were raising forces against us. It was clear that the Republic could not be stabilized until they were defeated. The showdown came at the Battle of Philippi in 42 BCE, one of the most significant battles of my life. I remember standing on the battlefield, knowing that this fight would determine not only the fate of Rome, but my own future. The battle was brutal, and I nearly lost my life. But in the end, our forces triumphed. Both Brutus and Cassius were dead, and Caesar had been avenged. With the murderers of Caesar vanquished, I turned my attention back to Rome, but my alliance with Antony and Lepidus was growing increasingly tenuous. Lepidus was the weakest of the three, and I soon marginalized him, taking control of his territories. Antony, however, was a different story. His ambitions were becoming clearer, especially as he began his affair with Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt. Their relationship posed a direct threat to my rule. Antony had grown infatuated with her, and together they dreamed of ruling not just Rome but a vast Eastern Empire. I knew that a confrontation was inevitable. In 32 BCE, the Senate declared war on Cleopatra, and by extension, Antony. The stage was set for the final confrontation between us. The Battle of Actium in 31 BCE was the defining moment of my career. I had prepared meticulously, ensuring that my fleet, under the command of Agrippa, would outmaneuver Antony's. The battle took place on the Ionian Sea, with both our fleets locked in a deadly struggle. As the battle raged on, I watched from a distance, knowing that the fate of the empire hung in the balance. When Antony's fleet began to falter, Cleopatra fled with her ships, and Antony, overcome by emotion, followed her. It was the end of their ambitions and the beginning of my undisputed rule. With Antony and Cleopatra defeated, I returned to Rome in triumph. Egypt became a Roman province, and I ensured that Rome's grain supply was secure. My power was now absolute, but I understood the importance of appearances. The people of Rome had seen what happened to my great-uncle when he became too powerful. They had no love for kings or dictators, and I knew that if I were to avoid Caesar's fate, I had to be clever. In 27 BCE, I appeared before the Senate and offered to relinquish my powers. It was a calculated move. The Senate, in gratitude for restoring order, granted me the title of Augustus, meaning the revered one. I became Rome's first emperor, though I styled myself as princeps, or first citizen, carefully avoiding the title of king in hopes that it would make me appear more humble to the people of Rome. Under my rule, Rome entered an era of peace and prosperity known as the Pax Romana. The empire was vast, but I was determined to secure its borders and strengthen its infrastructure. I launched military campaigns in Hispania and Germania, ensuring that Rome's influence extended far beyond its original boundaries. My generals, particularly Agrippa, were instrumental in these victories. One of my proudest moments was the conquest of Egypt, which not only brought immense wealth to Rome, but also solidified my control over the Mediterranean. However, not all my military endeavors were successful. The defeat at the Teutoburg forest in 9 CE was a crushing blow. 3 Roman legions, led by Varus, were ambushed by Germanic tribes, and the loss was devastating. For days I mourned the loss of my men, crying out to Varus, "Give me back my legions." I cried to him. It was a stark reminder that even Rome was vulnerable. Despite this setback, my reign was marked by extensive reforms. I reorganized the military, creating a standing army and the Praetorian Guard, an elite force tasked with protecting the emperor. The first also reformed the tax system, ensuring that Rome's wealth was distributed more fairly. But perhaps my most enduring legacy was my building projects. I famously declared, "I found Rome a city of bricks and left it a city of marble." During my reign, I oversaw the construction of temples, aqueducts, and theatres, transforming the city into a magnificent capital worthy of an empire. As I grew older, thoughts of succession began to weigh heavily on me. I had no natural sons, and my efforts to groom a successor were fraught with tragedy. Marcellus, my nephew and initial heir, died young. Agrippa, my trusted general and second choice, also passed away. Ultimately, I adopted my stepson, Tiberius, as my heir, though our relationship was always strained even after all my efforts to reconcile him. On my deathbed, surrounded by those closest to me, I uttered the words that I hope would define my life. "Have I played my part well? Then applaud as I exit," I said to my men. And so in that moment, my life came to an end. But my legacy endured. Rome would never be the same. I had transformed a crumbling republic into the most powerful empire the world had ever seen. The Pax Romana would last for centuries after my death, and future emperors would look to my reign as the golden standard.